Hello everyone and welcome back to LewisFiction and welcome to rewriting Spider-Man Far From Home. If you guys are new to the channel and have not seen this series before, make sure you go back and watch my other rewriting videos of the MCU Spider-Man films up to this point, or else this won't make much sense to you. But if you are all caught up, sit back, relax, grab some snacks and enjoy the rewrite. We start the film with Matt Gargan in prison getting a visitation to see his dying mother. He goes to see her one final time before sobbing over her body. It's revealed that he didn't have enough money to pay for the upper end care that she needed to survive because he was put away in prison by Spider-Man, fueling his motivation and his hatred for him. We cut back to prison where Gargan returns. We get a repeat of the scene from the end of Homecoming as Gargan asks around if anyone knows Spider-Man's identity. He asks Adrian Toomes, and Toomes will say he has no idea. Gargan will then say he's lost too much. Spider-Man will pay. We then cut to the title card and then straight to Peter. First and foremost, the story will not take place in a trip across Europe. Instead, it will primarily take place in New York. This is because, as you've probably noticed, Mysterio isn't the villain anymore, it is the Scorpion. This film also won't deal with the death of Tony Stark as its main theme for Peter, since in this rewrited universe, Peter and Tony never had the same sort of relationship that was depicted in the actual movies. There will be two major aspects of Peter's story which will be set up during this time. Firstly, there will be a massive emphasis on Peter and Aunt May's relationship and the strain that has been caused by Peter being Spider-Man. One thing I didn't like in the actual film was how accepting May was of Peter being Spider-Man, even after losing Uncle Ben. However, since I made Uncle Ben a major part of Homecoming, this gives a reason for Aunt May to be against Peter being Spider-Man. No matter how Peter tries to justify it to May, May just isn't accepting of it, telling him that he has to stop because he could get himself killed. This will go hand in hand with the idea that crime has risen tenfold after the blip, and most of the Avengers are either retired or deceased. Spider-Man has been left to pick up the pieces, being one of the only heroes left after Avengers Endgame. The second thing, which will become very clear during the opening of this film, will be the strain on his relationship with MJ. MJ has been his best friend for many years now, both of them connecting deeply over the trauma of their pasts. However, MJ feels like that she's losing that support since Peter is always off doing Spider-Man stuff, and since she doesn't know that he is Spider-Man, this puts a massive strain on their relationship as she can't relate to him. There is still a romantic tension between the two, but it's usually followed up by frustration on MJ's end. This makes her feel lonely during the first portion of the film, which will eventually lead to her getting into a relationship with Flash Thompson. Flash isn't the one that MJ truly loves, but he will be there for her more and more throughout the film, while Peter is off being Spider-Man, and MJ attaches to this love that she is given. Flash's role in this film will be replacing what Brad Davis was in the original Spider-Man Far From Home. I, along with most of you guys, believed Brad to be really annoying and quite a useless part of Far From Home, since the role that he played in that story was quite literally built for Flash Thompson, but Flash never ended up fulfilling it. Flash being Peter's direct competition and rival is the literal point of his character, so instead of Brad, this will be Flash occupying this role. This will put Peter in a predicament and will set up his story that goes forward in this film. On one hand, he sees what being Spider-Man is doing to his relationship with Aunt May and how it's breaking them two apart, so he feels like he can't be honest with MJ, scared that the same thing might happen. And Peter has lost too much already, he can't bear to lose anyone else. However, on the other hand, if he isn't honest with MJ, they might drift apart anyway. Peter is stuck in the middle of this, and it's almost a lose-lose situation in Peter's head, which Flash getting together with MJ is also a physical representation of that. It all boils down to one thing: loss. Peter is scared of loss, which intentionally parallels Matt Gargan's story of loss as well, creating a grander theme for the movie. We will also introduce another element to this film as well, and that is J. Jonah Jameson. Now, many people might see where this is going. JJ will be introduced in a main role an entire film earlier than was originally planned, and that is for one simple reason: the Scorpion. JJ, of course, will do his usual antics and hating on Spider-Man, believing him to be a threat to the city. His main justification for this will be that after the blip and after the entire world was put into crisis, the last thing that people want is masked heroes running around helping them. JJ makes it his mission to unmask Spider-Man to truly reveal who he is. Therefore, JJ will fund Matt Gargan's bail and will help fund his revenge for Spider-Man. JJ and Matt's combined goal to take down Spider-Man goes hand in hand with each other. However, JJ doesn't want to kill Spider-Man, all he wants to do is unmask him, and this is something that Mac doesn't lead on to just yet, as his true plans aren't fully revealed. On the Peter side of things during this time, MJ will be really struggling with her mental health. Having Peter slip through her fingers hasn't helped her, and she doesn't feel like she could talk to Flash, as it becomes clear that Flash was only there as fake support. Flash was used as a pawn that MJ thought she could love, when really, she loves Peter. Peter is her true love. After this realization, she tries to call him or contact him in any way, but he doesn't answer, because, would you believe it, he's off doing Spider-Man stuff. MJ pleads for Peter over voicemail, telling him that she needs to see him. It's really important. This leads up to the midpoint of the film, where the voicemail that MJ records will be paired over and will switch between Peter fighting the Scorpion for the first time. And as MJ starts to sound more and more concerned over the phone, Peter will be getting beaten down by the Scorpion for the pain that Mac Gargan has suffered through. Mac will keep saying that he's ruined his life and Peter won't know what to respond with. Peter will only just come out alive with his identity still intact. However, MJ in the end puts the phone down as she decides, no, I'm going to confront him head on. She leaves for May's apartment, and when she arrives, she catches May bawling at the television screen as she watches Spider-Man and the Scorpion battle live. I feel like this isn't something we see a lot in Spider-Man media, and I thought it would be quite hard-hitting if we saw this here. We know May is concerned about Peter, and their relationship has taken a nosedive because of Spider-Man. But seeing it from May's perspective and watching her cry as her nephew gets beaten down by a supervillain not only breaks MJ's heart when she catches her, but will break the audience as well. MJ asks May if she's okay, and she quickly wipes away her tears, saying that she was only thinking about Ben. This then opens up a conversation between the two where MJ starts opening up about how she feels, and May, knowing her through Peter all this time, says that she'll always be there for her as they comfort each other. They almost find solace in each other's loss. However, this scene runs long enough for it to be interrupted by a crash coming from Peter's room. MJ stands up and says she thought Peter wasn't home. May gulps and freezes as MJ approaches his room. She slowly opens his door to see none other than Peter on his knees with cuts and bruises and tears all over his suit and body. MJ covers her mouth in shock as she focuses in on the Spider-Man logo on Peter's chest. Peter tells MJ to wait, he can explain, as she tears up and runs out of the apartment, leaving May and Peter there. May comes into the room and wells up as Peter barely gets to his feet. May looks at him and says one thing and one thing only: this has to stop. Peter curls his face in confusion. He tells her, what about Ben? What about great responsibility? Peter would say, would he want me to sit around and do nothing? He has these powers and people need help. May shouts back saying Ben Parker is dead, and if he carries on, so will he. And if he's not careful, the people he loves might be as well. May will say she doesn't want to see him in that costume ever again, as she slams the door in his face. She's broken. MJ's broken. And now Peter is broken as well. Peter is angry. He smashes a picture frame of him and May on his desk. He then picks up his desk and slams it into the floor, breaking it in two. May can only hold her tears back as she listens from outside of his room. Peter then punches a hole in the wall before leaving back out of the window. This is one of the lowest points for Peter in his entire career as Spider-Man. He'll feel lost. If the first film was about him figuring out how to be the best version of Spider-Man, this film is now about him figuring out how to be the best version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man as one package, as his identity has really caused an upset. As the come down arrives, Peter tries to contact MJ, but MJ doesn't reply. However, Peter does the only thing he knows how to do, and that is to be Spider-Man. He may have ruined his relationship with May and MJ, but he can still help Mac Gargan. Peter will remember how Mac was during the fight. He sounded broken, he sounded hurt, almost like how May, MJ, and Peter sounded earlier in the film. Peter will think maybe at the end of all of this, maybe Mac Gargan can be helped. After doing some digging, Peter will find out what happened to him, what happened to his mother. And then Peter resonates with this, thinking back to what happened with Aunt May, and all the fights that he's had over the last couple of months because of Spider-Man. This will hit Peter hard. He has to fix his relationship with Aunt May. She's the only family that he has left. He has to fix what he has with her as much as humanly possible. However, Peter leaves himself vulnerable, as the Scorpion and Spider-Man come to blows again. This time, Peter isn't as combative, but more trying to break through to him. This will rile Mac up more and more, and Mac ends up defeating Spider-Man and bringing him in, where in a sudden turn of events, Mac and J. Jonah Jameson together unmask Spider-Man, finding Peter Parker underneath. They are both surprised, especially JJ, that he's just a kid. After finding out that he's Peter Parker and doing some research on him, Mac says now that JJ has his story, it's time to bring pain down upon Spider-Man like never before. He tells Peter that he's going to hurt everyone he loves before finally finishing him off too. JJ, however, intervenes, saying that wasn't the deal. The deal was to reveal who he was to the world, not to hurt or kill anyone. Mac will tell JJ that he's got it all wrong as he pushes him aside and leaves. Scared of what he could do to May or MJ or anyone else in his life, making Peter's worst fears come true, he screams out for Scorpion to get back here. JJ looks towards the Scorpion, who leaps out of the window, and to Peter in pain, screaming for him to come back. JJ looks remorseful as he approaches Peter and unchains him, telling him to go. JJ apologizes, saying this wasn't what was meant to happen. This is not what he wanted. Peter nods in acknowledgement as he leaves, chasing the Scorpion. The final battle ensues as the Scorpion goes after Aunt May. The battle is fierce and strong as Peter does everything in his power to protect his aunt, his mother, the only one that has cared for him over the last few years. However, it's not enough as the Scorpion ends up killing May in the process, taking her away from Peter, taking from him what he lost because of Spider-Man. Peter then almost beats the Scorpion to death. However, he is reminded of what his Uncle Ben would have done and stops. The Scorpion won, and Peter had lost. The dust settles as Peter cries over May's body, and the Scorpion is taken away. Peter has lost absolutely everything. We fade back into May's funeral as MJ approaches Peter for the first time in a few months. She hugs him, and Peter says he's sorry for everything. He understands if she doesn't want to see him. He's sorry for being distant and not honest. And then MJ says that she's sorry too. She shouldn't have ran off from him like that. She should have took the time to understand him. Peter says that he vows to be there for her no matter what. And MJ says, what about Spider-Man? Peter shakes his head, as we then cut to a montage of Peter packing up the suit and throwing it into the Hudson River, saying that he's failed his uncle. He failed to protect the only family he had left. Uncle Ben taught him great responsibility, but what if his great responsibility was to not use his great power at all? After all, Spider-Man was a hindrance. Spider-Man killed Aunt May. Spider-Man is the reason that she isn't here with us. Peter decides the best thing to do for himself and the people that he has left, the people that he loves, MJ especially, is to be Spider-Man no more, as it's caused more pain than a single person could ever bear. As we fade out, ending our film there. Thank you very much for watching my rewrite of Spider-Man Far From Home. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit a like on it, and also make sure to subscribe if you are new around here to not miss my final part in this series, which is rewriting Spider-Man No Way Home. If you thought Far From Home was different, then you are not ready for No Way Home. That is going to be a complete overhaul of the entire movie. Make sure you're ready for that. I can't wait to bring that to you. If you enjoyed this video, here are some other videos on the screen right now that you may enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and keep telling stories.